Title: Where the Wildflowers Grew. The bus rolled to a gentle stop at the edge of town, its brakes sighing as if reluctant to let her off. Margaret stepped down, the afternoon sun spilling over her shoulders like a familiar shawl. She clutched her small suitcase tightly, eyes scanning the street that felt both foreign and achingly familiar. The town hadn't changed much, some new storefronts, a fresh coat of paint on the library, but beneath the surface, everything was the same. The same cracked sidewalks. The same oak trees lining Main Street. Her heart thudded quietly. 50 years. A lifetime lived elsewhere. A husband now gone, children scattered across distant cities, and a house too empty to stay in. The wind carried the scent of honeysuckle as she walked, her footsteps slow but purposeful. Without needing to think, her feet led her toward the outskirts, past old houses and faded porches. Past the park where she and her friends used to sit, gossiping about boys. Past the diner that once served milkshakes on warm summer nights. And then, without realizing, she found herself standing at the edge of the field where the wildflowers grew. It was overgrown now, tangled with weeds and tall grass, but she could still see traces of what it used to be. The place where she and James would meet, hands clasped tightly, breathless with plans for the future. She closed her eyes, letting the breeze carry her back. "Margaret?" The voice, gravelly, older, made her turn. He stood a few yards away, his silhouette framed by the sun. "James." His hair was silver now, his frame leaner, a slight stoop to his shoulders. But the eyes were unmistakable. Deep-set, warm, a little guarded. For a moment, neither of them moved. The years stretched between them like the space in the field. Finally, Margaret smiled softly. "Hello, James." He took a tentative step closer, hands in the pockets of his worn jacket. "I thought I might be imagining things when I saw you." You're back." She nodded, swallowing past the lump in her throat. "Just visiting." His gaze flickered over her, as if taking inventory of what time had changed and what it hadn't. "It's been a long time." 50 years, she murmured, voice quiet. A faint smile tugged at his lips. "Longer than I ever expected." They stood there for a while, letting the silence say what neither knew how to put into words. "Would you?" James hesitated. "Would you like to get coffee? There's a little cafe down by the square." "Nothing fancy." Margaret hesitated, then nodded. "I'd like that." The cafe was tucked between a bookstore and a pharmacy, its windows fogged slightly from the afternoon sun. James held the door open for her, and she noticed the way he still did things quietly, unobtrusively, the way he always had. They sat by the window, nursing 2 cups of coffee neither seemed in a rush to finish. "So," he said after a pause, glancing out at the street. "What brings you back after all this time?" Margaret traced her finger around the rim of her cup. "I suppose. I just wanted to see it again. The town. The places I remember." A small smile touched his face. "You picked a good time. Spring's kind to this place." She looked at him. "You never left." He shrugged, eyes still on the window. "Someone had to stay." There was a weight in his voice, something unsaid. Margaret felt it settle between them. "I thought about leaving," he admitted after a moment. "Back then. After you left. But I didn't. Got married. Ran my father's shop. Life sort of happened." Margaret swallowed. "I heard. I was sorry to hear about your wife." He nodded once, expression unreadable. "And your husband?" "Gone 5 years now." The silence stretched again. But this time it wasn't uncomfortable, just full. James cleared his throat. "Funny, isn't it? How quick things change when you're young, but how slow everything feels now." Margaret smiled faintly. "Or maybe it's the other way around." They talked a little more, about the town, about people they knew. But beneath it all, there was an undercurrent neither of them dared touch yet. The past. What had been left unsaid all those years ago? Finally, as the sun dipped lower, James stood. Would you like to walk a bit? If you've got time. Margaret hesitated only a moment before nodding. I'd like that. They strolled down the quiet streets, past the old schoolhouse, past houses with porches that sagged just a little more than before. As they walked, James glanced sideways at her. I kept thinking, he said softly, over the years, if I'd done something different. Said something. Would things have turned out differently? Margaret looked down at her hands. I thought the same. They stopped near the bridge that overlooked the creek. The same bridge they'd stood on so many times, back when life felt like a story still being written. I wanted to write to you, James admitted suddenly. Back when you left. But I didn't know what to say. Margaret's throat tightened. I wrote, she said quietly. But I never sent them. He looked at her, surprised. You did? She nodded, eyes shimmering. 4 months. Letters I'd never dare send. The breeze stirred between them, soft and insistent. I still have them, she whispered. James let out a breath, something heavy slipping from his shoulders. I guess we were both too stubborn. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of years pressing down gently. Do you ever wonder, he said finally, voice almost a whisper, if we'd have been happy? If things had gone differently? Margaret swallowed. All the time. He glanced at her, something soft and tentative in his expression. Maybe it's not too late. Her heart gave a quiet lurch. The sun cast golden light across the field below, catching on the tall grass, the scattered wildflowers swaying in the breeze. Margaret looked out over the town she had once left behind, then back at James. Maybe not. Over the next few days, they fell into a quiet routine. Morning walks. Coffee at the cafe. Long conversations that drifted between the past and present. They spoke about their lives, about children and careers, about small joys and quiet regrets. But slowly, the conversations grew deeper, peeling back layers neither of them had dared touch in years. One afternoon, as they sat on a bench overlooking the town, James cleared his throat. I kept thinking back to that night, he said softly. The last one. Before you left. Margaret looked at him, her heart tight. You wanted me to leave with you, he continued. But I couldn't. My parents, the shop, the town. It felt like too much to walk away from. She nodded, voice quiet. And I couldn't stay. They sat there, letting the memory settle. James sighed. I thought I was doing the right thing. But after you left, nothing felt right anymore. Margaret reached over, her hand brushing his. Neither did mine. He turned to her, eyes searching. Do you think, he asked carefully, that people get more than one chance at happiness? She met his gaze, her heart steady. I think sometimes, life gives you exactly what you thought you'd lost. On her last evening in town, Margaret stood once again at the edge of the field. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the wildflowers. She closed her eyes, listening to the hush of the breeze, the quiet hum of crickets starting to stir. Footsteps approached behind her. James stood there, his expression uncertain, almost shy. Thought I might find you here. She smiled softly. I wanted to see it one last time. He hesitated, then reached into his jacket pocket. Pulled out something folded, worn. A letter.